The dead man finally rises into the sunset, or you can say he finally rests in peace. Carl Coulage for the Sports Hit List, by the fans and for the fans. This intro was really, really difficult for me to say, so I'm going to turn it over to my contributors because I'm really getting teary-eyed just even going through this right now. TK the Tank, Tom Kenny. He's not talking football. He's not talking baseball. He's not talking basketball, but he's talking pro wrestling today. TK, how you doing?
It's good, Carl. Rest in peace, Carl.
We have Nick Maldonado. Nick, how you doing, man?
I'm doing good. Like you said, never thought this day would come, but the takers finally hung it up.
And Mike. Mike, how you doing, bro?
I'm doing okay. Okay.
You know, they used to tell me if you roll your eyes behind your head and someone
they get stuck like that.
They get stuck like that. Is that a myth or is that true?
No, that's a myth. He's done it like 1,000 times.
I don't know. I never wanted to test it though.
Yeah, they said that if you do it and someone punches you in the back, it gets stuck that way. So I've never tried it. I never wanted to. I don't know. But as I said in my opening, as you all know from watching the documentary, I still haven't watched it yet. But just know The Undertaker has officially retired. He said he's done in the ring. And I just wanted to spend today to pay a tribute to the legend, Mark Calloway, The Undertaker, Mean Mark Calloway, whatever you want to call him. And just go with you guys' thoughts about The Undertaker's 3-decade story career, which started in 1990 with the WWE, even though he was a pro wrestler with WCW before that. And just highlight what he meant to us. You know, his good and his bad. So let's start off with Nick, who had the opportunity to meet him, and I'm jealous in a good way with that. So Nick, what are your thoughts on what you saw in the documentary and overall with Mark's career?
You know, it's kind of like what we saw in the documentary is what I saw when I met him, where you kind of like you think your thing where you can separate the art from the artist. That was kind of it. I didn't really feel like I was meeting the Undertaker when I met him. I felt like I was meeting Mark Calloway, and it was like, wow, he actually is just a regular person. But I started watching wrestling in 2007, 2008. So, you know, that's when Undertaker was, on top on Friday Night SmackDown, World Heavyweight title, his feuds with Edge. So I really, growing up, I mean, I'll admit it, when I was younger, I was scared of him. But over time, he turned into one of my favorites, getting to see him at WrestleMania 33. And what I thought was his retirement, still pissed he came back. But it's just, every time you saw him on the screen, every time that gong hits, it's just, and unbelievable, like you get chills down your spine.
Mike, what are your thoughts on The Undertaker?
Well, you're a huge fan of basketball and The Last Dance. So pretty much The Last Ride was WWE's version of The Last Dance. He is the Michael Jordan of professional wrestling, and so the fact that he went on for 30 years, man, I'm gonna go with Nick said. I was scared of him a lot of times growing up as a kid. But at the end of the day, he was always that villain. He was always that good guy. He could play whatever he wanted to. At the end of the day, he still entertained you, and that's what mattered. So, I mean, he was an awesome character, and I mean, wish him the best in what he does in the future.
Mike, that's a bold statement, calling him the Michael Jordan of pro wrestling. Listen, I love The Undertaker. That's a huge statement, and I applaud you for saying it.
I'm sorry, he is though.
TK, what are your thoughts on the dead man?
I mean, I was born in 1990. Undertaker debuted in 1990. He's always been around as long as I've been watching wrestling. Started watching wrestling in about 1997, 1998. One of my most vivid memories, because I still had to go to bed kind of early for Raw, but in the summer I could stay up and watch it. So one of my earliest memories was watching the Ministry of Darkness and Undertaker abducting Stephanie McMahon and the whole thing with, it was me, Austin, with Vince McMahon. And that storyline, I really was like crazy to me as a kid, and I just remember Undertaker just always being there, being the one constant WWE. In 2010, I went to Fatal 4-Way pay-per-view solely because the Undertaker was having a match, and in my mind, I was like, wow, this dude's 45 years old. He's only got maybe a year or two left. Well, I know he'd go another decade, but unfortunately, the storyline wrote him out and put Rey Mysterio in, and I was a little bummed, but I did get to see Undertaker WrestleMania 29 versus CM Punk. One of the best entrances I've ever seen, the best match on that card easily. And I'm glad I got to see him once. But, yeah, he's the dead man. He's the phenom. He's one of the best of all time. And, just thank you for all the memories. But, Carl, I will say, I don't think he's done.
To me, as I told you guys, listen, it's hard because I even have my Taker book here, and one of my good friends gave this to me, and it
Wow.
highlights his career. And for me, it was very emotional for me to have to go through um, just watching his career. And Undertaker for me is the reason why I started watching pro wrestling, and he's the main reason I started watching it. Without the Undertaker, I don't even believe I would be watching wrestling as a kid. And I remember, and I've said this story countless times. I remember flipping the channels as a 6-year-old, and as I'm flipping the channels, I'm just looking for something to watch, and I fall upon someone putting another man in a body bag, and I'm just like, oh, what is that? I'm just like, what's going on? Like, it just caught my attention. And since then I started watching pro wrestling, and just I've been able to watch his entire I don't remember his career when he debuted, but I did the research and finding out how it was. But I watched basically his entire career. From the time he, had his early promos with Yokozuna and he rose from the casket at the 1994 Royal Rumble, from the time that you had the Undertaker versus Undertaker match at SummerSlam 1994 when he comes back, from the time where he faced Psycho Sid at WrestleMania and he won his championship, and then in 1997 you have 96, 97, he has the feud with Mankind, the first Boiler Room Brawl match. Then he goes into a feud with Shawn Michaels and he has the first Hell in a Cell match, and then Kane comes out, and then you hear JR's voice. That's got to be Kane. Just so many memories. Him rising from the dead against to finally say that he's going to face his brother at WrestleMania 14. And then you go into the Ministry of Darkness side. Then you go into he gets hurt, and then he has to come back. And what does he do? He reinvents his character, and he comes back as It's My Yard and the American Badass, and he has the Limp Bizkit theme music. He celebrates his decade, with the championship match. Then he leaves, and then he has another theme song, You've Done It Now, from 2000 2003, another reinvention of The Undertaker, where it's My Yard, I'm going to make you famous. Then he goes and he comes back as the old Undertaker with the old jersey. He returns with Paul Bearer. Like I said, it's just been his entire career, and he makes a long match. And then I saw him Taker Shawn 2. I was able to see him four years in a row at WrestleMania, 26, 27, 28, and 29. I saw him at the Royal Rumble in 2008, where he, came back out with Shawn Michaels. So many memories. I saw, I was at a Monday Night Raw where him and Shane were going back at it, and he cut a promo. And when his music hits in the arena, it's like you feel the whole arena move. It's like the whole place, and you hear gong, and then you just hear like lights out, and you feel his presence there. And then he just rises everything. And to me, it's just, I know I love Shawn, and I've always said it's a neck and neck between Shawn and Taker. But like, for me, it's just so emotional just to watch. Like, I've seen his entire career, and to know that chances are I may not hear the gong again. And no matter how old he is, when you sporadically hear that gong, and you're just like, holy shit. Like, you're just like, wow, it's
It is.
So for me, like, all I can honestly truly say is just thank you. And I believe a lot of people underrate him, and I'm sorry for taking up your time, but it's just Taker for me.
This is your show.
Taker for me is very, very, like I said, it feels like it's the end of an era, because I literally watched his entire career. I may have 3 years that I didn't watch him because I was too young in 1990, but when I started watching wrestling in about 92, 93, he's always been there. He's been that consistent stigma who's always there. And I'll never forget, like, I watched the interview he did with Stone Cold on his podcast. He said the reason why he didn't jump ship was because WCW kicked him out. And WCW gave him no opportunity. He would never leave Vince hanging because of that, because Vince took the shot on giving him that one opportunity, and he could never look back and say, let me go jump ship like everybody else was doing in the mid-90s. And that's why he stayed so long. So, and the other thing is, Taker never really cared whether he was in the main event, was he a mid-card. He was always just whatever Vince needed. He was always that guy that you can say, okay, I can basically put him anywhere and he could be successful. So
there's something that Ric Flair brought up in the documentary that I found to be so amazing, and I'm thinking about that right now, is that he said, how many 7-foot tall guys can you see jump over the top rope? I mean, his athleticism is another thing to be amazed by. Seriously. I can't imagine anybody that tall jumping that high, but he managed to do it. Give me a name of somebody else who's done that, because I can't think of anybody else.
What's your
TK, go
favorite
ahead.
Undertaker match, Carl?
Favorite Undertaker match?
Oh man,
That's tough. I would say, oh man, shit. Like, there's so many to pick. Honestly, I would. It's a tie between the Hell in a Cell versus Mankind. And when he threw
Okay.
Mankind, maybe it's a moment, but when he threw Mankind off the cell, in JR's words, I thought he was dead. Like he literally, like,
Yeah.
I thought, like, he's like, by God, he's broken in half.
that
And
wasn't meant to happen. So I mean that's
Well, no.
uncanny
He was
valley.
always meant to go off the cage. He just wasn't meant to go through the cage. If you watch that match back, Taker even says he recalls all the zip ties, just bing, 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 just flying off. But going back to that match real quick, when he chokeslammed Mankind through the cage, Mankind hit the ground. Taker jumped down. You see him hobbling because he had a broken ankle at the time. Terry Funk comes in. Terry Funk says, make sure he's alive. So Terry Funk runs over to Mankind. You see him touch Mankind's face. He's checking for a pulse. Terry Funk comes back, says he's alive. And in those days, the WWE didn't really stop the show. So Undertaker hit Terry Funk with a choke slam, which made Terry Funk's shoes fly off. Literally choke slammed him out of his shoes. And Mankind said when he woke up, the first thing he thought was, whose shoes are those? Because you just saw shoes lying on the mat.
yeah, if I had
That's
to,
pretty
like,
flattering.
that match was a good match. I thought Taker Shawn 1 was better than 2. I thought
Me
that
too.
went the
Yes.
the first one went the distance.
I agree.
Second one was great, and I thought Shawn had him at 2. But the first one really was just like, oh my God, like, these guys are past their primes and they're putting on a show. And I was really upset. And I've showed this to TK. I was like, that should have closed the show. I don't think Vince really realized that match would have stole the night.
It got too
Yeah,
personal
no,
between
that was-
Triple H and
yeah,
That's
Randy.
my favorite Undertaker match. Undertaker Michaels, WrestleMania 25.
Yes.
Yeah, that one was classic. And, I think it's safe to say Undertaker is the best character in pro wrestling history.
Yes.
So, Carl,
Yeah.
who's better, Undertaker or HBK? Who gets the top spot?
Oh my God.
As a performer, as a character, Tom.
Listen.
As a pro wrestler.
It's
Okay.
if you toss that question out to me, I still have to go Shawn. I
Yes,
respect
it
I
has
respect
to be
Undertaker,
Shawn.
but it's literally Undertaker is just like right there below him, because Shawn was able to, and I think because Shawn was able to transcend in each and every, he was able to be a great tag team. He was able to be a great middle guy. He was mid carder. He was able to be a great main eventer. I think Undertaker had the character that Shawn didn't have, which added, the element to it. But I still got to stick with Shawn. Shawn to me was, but Undertaker's right there too. Listen, Undertaker to me, those are my 1 and 2, like maybe like 1 and 1.5.
And
That's
the
how
Mount
it
Rushmore.
is for me. Yeah, those guys I can't go wrong. And like I said, it's emotional because I'm just like, wow, like my childhood, really, the guy that got me into wrestling is no longer around. He's gone now. I hope he comes back and, maybe he's a manager of some sort, or I don't know what he'll do, but just thank you. Thank you to Mark Calloway. If I never get to meet him and he's browsing on YouTube and he sees this, all I have to say is just thank you for all the memories. Thank you for 30 years of entertaining. Thank you for so many last rides, tombstones, choke slams, walking the rope, casket matches. Old school. Like, again, if you just go back and like I said, go back and watch SummerSlam 1994. Undertaker versus Undertaker. He returns. Ted DiBiase has his own version of the Undertaker. They look just alike. It is just, there's so many stuff that McMahon did with that character. And it was funny, is another quick story is he didn't even think he was going to be the Undertaker, because when WCW fired him and he was looking for work, he went to go see Vince. And then, and after he had his meeting with Vince, he's like, all right. Vince is like, right now I don't have anything, but I'll let you know. And then they started promoting the Gobbledygookler on TV.
Yeah.
And then Undertaker thought in his mind, like, he was going to be the Gobbledygookler. He was like, he doesn't know what he's going to give him. And then he gets a phone call from Vince, and Vince says, hello, is this the Undertaker? And then he goes, what? He's like, all right, you're going to be the Undertaker. And he showed him what his character is going to be. He's just like, okay, I could work with this, so and he never broke that, and until maybe recently he broke the character. But yeah, to me, like, seeing these guys go out is like part of your childhood, just going with it.
Nick has been taken by the Undertaker. Nick has been taken by the Undertaker. He made an appearance in the Sports Illustrated, and now Nick has been taken by the Undertaker. Right now.
Man.
Yeah.
So to close out for TK the Tank, from Mike, we will, you guys say it with me, rest
in
peace.
peace.
Bye.